Welcome back, folks, to #AskGSM. I am Graham Jason Matthews, and we are less than 24 hours removed from what I thought was a very entertaining WWE Battleground event. And speaking of which, today's episode features all the fallout from the pay-per-view, including my thoughts on Kevin Owens tapping out, which I was not a fan of at all, but a great match with John Cena, The Undertaker making his grand comeback at the end of the show, and also what's next for Seth Rollins as WWE World Heavyweight Champion, what's next for Brock Lesnar, what's next for Zack Ryder. Okay, made that last one up, but today's episode is jam-packed with all your questions from Battleground and much, much more. Which brings me to my next point. If you want to send in a question, you can tweet me on Twitter with the #AskGSM at WrestleRant. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights, or leave a post on the wall itself, or you can leave a comment on this very video, and I'll be sure to include your question in next week's edition. Just a brief reminder here, I do accept all questions up until maybe early Monday morning or around noon or so. I film these videos in the afternoon, late morning, whatever. So if your question does not get included for whatever reason, either I missed it, or it didn't make the deadline, or sometimes if it's on the Facebook page or on Twitter or whatever and I don't include it, or if I overlook it, sometimes I have them all written here in the document and I overlook it for whatever reason, I will let you know. I will reply to you and say, hey, I didn't include it or whatever for whatever reason, and it will be included, excuse me, I botched there for a second, I had a Sin Cara moment. It will be included in next week's video. So finally, before we get started here, just a few news and notes, mostly just kind of notes, no news here, but you will notice that I am filming this from a different location. It's the same room that I film in every single week, it's just flipped around. I did film this video right before this for a half an hour and my laptop shut off, so that you can only imagine how pissed I was after my laptop just shut out, and it's because it overheated. This room that I'm in is so hot, and you ask, why don't I go elsewhere? It's because nowhere else in the house that I'm currently in, that I live in, of course, has better audio and whatever. I can't go in the kitchen. It's just, it doesn't work out. The lighting's not as good. So anyway, we're going to do it like this, and if you do hear something in the background, that brings me to my next point. It's just the fan. It's on the left of me. You can't see it, but that's going to be on in the background to ensure this doesn't turn off. And finally, if this video is chopped up into parts, which I sometimes do when I exceed the time limit of an hour, which I don't do most of the time. If it does go past an hour, sometimes I do see the mark. If I don't, then it just goes to a certain point. I keep on talking and it just shuts off, whatever. But anyway, this video might be chopped up into different parts because I want to save. I want to get to different checkpoints, so to speak, so it doesn't turn off. If it does turn off on me like a half an hour in or whatever, I don't have to do it all over again. So just keep on the lookout for all those different things throughout this video. I apologize in advance. Without further ado, let's get down to your questions for this week. Kicking it off with the first KFC from YouTube. And this is, like I said, this is the second time I'm answering all of these questions. I just answered them before, and it wasn't that great of a video anyway, so I'm kind of happy I get the second chance to do it. But anyway, his first question was, should Kevin Owens and John Cena continue their feud into SummerSlam but add Cesaro into the mix and make it a triple threat match? You know, those were my thoughts a couple weeks ago. I thought the current course of action was to do a triple threat at SummerSlam with Cesaro, Cena, and Owens. But now that Rusev's involved, a four-way with those guys would be awesome. But, you know, like I was talking about with RJ this morning via text, the tap-out I didn't get. You know, another one-on-one feud, a match rather, between Cena and Owens would be great. But after Owens got pinned at Money in the Bank, he got pinned at Beast in the East, where he lost his NXT title, and he tapped out last night. I thought he should have won that match, let alone not gotten tapped out, or not submitted at all, I guess is a better way of putting it. We should have had interference or not finish. Usually I'm not an advocate of interference or DQs or countouts, especially on pay-per-view, but in this case I felt it was fitting. I just wasn't a fan of it. I don't know how they get back to Kevin Owens being a worthy contender of being, of going after the U.S. Championship. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but another one-on-one match would be good. I just don't get why they wouldn't put the belt on Owens last night or at Money in the Bank or whatever. You know, I'm not a fan of the booking of the feud. You know, early on it was great when Owens won clean at Elimination Chamber, but after that it was kind of very strange booking from that point forward. But anyway, triple threat is what I would rather see than an Owens-Cena match, one-on-one. I'm not just saying that because they'll be at SummerSlam in 34 more days, as you can see on the countdown behind me. I don't know if you actually see it. It's right there above the jukebox. But 34 more days until SummerSlam. Until I'm there, baby. But anyway, I'm not just saying that because I will be there, that I want to see that triple threat. And I don't know if you put the belt back on Cesaro. I feel like Owens is the guy that should win that championship. But then why not just put the belt on Owens last night and then, Cena has his rematch, Cesaro is feuding with Owens. It would have made perfect sense, but they didn't do it. But yeah, I would love to see a triple threat between those three guys and maybe even a four-way with Rusev at SummerSlam. His second question, who will challenge Seth Rollins for the title at SummerSlam? That was the biggest question on my mind as well coming out of the pay-per-view last night because it looks like we're getting Undertaker and Brock Lesnar, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And actually up next, because that's his next question. But I'm not a fan of them doing a rematch because their match at WrestleMania 30 sucked. And I know Undertaker was concussed and whatever, but I just want to see Lesnar face fresh faces. Like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, like we've been seeing these last couple of months. It's been great to see Brock Lesnar mix it up with guys we would have never thought years ago he would be in the ring with. A Rollins or a Reigns or whatever. I don't want to see him in Cena again. I don't want to see him in Taker again. I don't want to see him in Triple H again or Big Show, Let it go. I want to see new guys in the ring against Lesnar. That said, the way that I would go about this, that Jay Leto from Twitter, at PW Powerhouse, on the Twitter, great dude, he suggested this, and I thought it was great. I thought it was an awesome idea. You do a triple threat for the title at SummerSlam, and I feel like Rollins and Triple H would be way too soon. It's rushed. I talked about that in a Bleacher Report article about a month and a half ago, early June, in saying that match is only inevitable, Rollins and Triple H, but they teased tension between the two about a month or two ago. They dropped it, so it would come completely out of nowhere if they were to start booking it tonight. They had Triple H turn on Rollins or turn him babyface. It would be way too rushed. Save that for Survivor Series or Rumble or WrestleMania. I know a lot of people are holding out hope for a Shield triple threat, myself included. Like I talked about in my Hidden Remote article a couple weeks ago, my dream card for WrestleMania, that match was on there for WrestleMania 32. But now is way too soon is the bottom line. So in a masked Kane, and that would have been a fine match for Elimination Chamber, like I talked about months ago here on the show. But, Kane and Rollins, it's not a bad match, but it's not SummerSlam worthy. I feel like even with Kane with the mask on, which I feel like is where he needs to go back to, it's not a SummerSlam main event worthy match. And even if they did Lesnar and Undertaker in the main event, I would not be happy with that. I mean, Undertaker and Sting, I get. We've seen Lesnar and Undertaker before, so I would not be a fan of that going on last, if anything. I'm just happy Undertaker's going to be there, but now I'll get back to my thoughts on the match in a second. But anyway, I would go with a triple threat. For a couple reasons. One, it gives Rollins an opponent for SummerSlam, first and foremost. Secondly, Lesnar does not have to get pinned. Undertaker does not have to win the championship. And here's the thing with Undertaker as champion. I know a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people do want to see Undertaker as champion again. I don't feel like Rollins, he should be the one to take that title off of Rollins. Rollins should hold that belt. I said this back at WrestleMania, up until SummerSlam, at the earliest, if he's going to drop it. So, they've done that. Congrats to WWE for not taking the title off of him and putting it back on him, doing a whole game of hot potato with the belt and whatever. The thing with Undertaker as champion, I would have done that at WrestleMania 29 a couple years ago when Punk, in my dream world, in my fantasy booking scenario, Punk would have never dropped the belt to Rock at Royal Rumble that year. You would have done Cena and Rock again. God forbid, I know, but at least it would not have been over the championship. It did not need to be the main event. The main event for me would have been Punk as the undefeated WWE champion and Undertaker undefeated at WrestleMania. Undertaker wins the belt, or maybe Punk ends the streak because they're going to end it anyway the following year. But anyway, I digress. You have Taker win. He wins the belt. I know not a lot of people were very happy with that idea, but he retires with it the next night on Raw. He retires 21-0. He gets one final title run. He vacates the next night on Raw, and the tournament begins to crown a new champion on the 50th anniversary of that championship that month. That was the way I would have booked it. In this scenario, if Undertaker wins it at SummerSlam, maybe you could do something similar. I don't want to see him retire at SummerSlam. That's the thing. I want to see him retire at WrestleMania. That's his stage. He should not retire at Summer. And then I could say I was there for his final match, but this is not me. I don't want to speak, selfishly here. Undertaker, in my opinion, should retire at WrestleMania. So, with that being said, maybe he wins it and he vacates the next night, but in my opinion, there's no point. I feel like Rollins, they should keep the belt on him in the long term and have him drop it to a Shield member, Roman Reigns or Ambrose or whoever, at WrestleMania. That's my fantasy booking. Maybe they keep it on for next couple and whatever. But I feel like having him drop it to Taker would be not a waste of a reign for Rollins, but I don't know. I just don't want to see Taker and Lesnar one-on-one. So a triple threat is what I would book for the pay-per-view. His third question: should Brock Lesnar turn heel for his feud with The Undertaker or keep them both faces? You know, in my opinion, and some people were like, is Undertaker a heel now? Is Lesnar going to go back heel? Whatever. In my opinion, Lesnar has never really been babyface. If you really think about it, it was the fans that turned him earlier this year. You go all the way back to the Raw before the Royal Rumble when he took out the Authority. People were going nuts. You know, when he took out Rollins and Big Show and Kane, it was fucking awesome. And that was kind of the start of his tweener turn. I know dirt sheets were reporting that was kind of the long-term plan, was to turn Brock Lesnar babyface. So I would be all in favor of them, you know, not babyface, but an anti-hero, I think is the best way to describe it, much like Randy Orton. But even more so than Orton, because he doesn't do, it's not like he's coming out now smiling and dancing and telling stupid jokes. He's still the same Brock Lesnar that he was before all of this happened about a year ago. He's still you can hate him if you want, you can cheer him, you can love him, you can loathe him, it doesn't matter, you know? And I feel like that could be the same case with his match with The Undertaker. And another reason why I feel like the triple threat is best, because in that scenario, you have a babyface in Undertaker, you have a heel in Rollins, and they're not going to turn Undertaker heel, by the way. He's way too beloved. At this point in his career, I don't see the point of it, but I don't see the purpose in turning him heel. But regardless, you have Undertaker as the babyface, Rollins as the heel, and then Lesnar as the anti-hero, as the tweener, whatever, in that scenario. So even more of a reason to do, and another reason to do a triple threat for the title at SummerSlam. Moving into the next set of questions here, from Frank Ashir, 15, if I mispronounced that, I apologize, who also just created an account simply to send in the question for the show. So, dude, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. That it means a lot to me. And to answer your two questions here, your first question was, should Jack Swagger leave WWE like it's been rumored lately? So this goes back to late last week, and I laughed because it seemed like nobody cared. It wasn't really a huge news story, but I saw nobody on Twitter talking about it. I saw nobody ask me about it. It completely went under the bridge, completely under the radar. Nobody really cared, which is a shame, and I'll get to the reason why in a second. But, should Jack Swagger leave WWE? So here's the thing. Maybe it's just me, and I know John and I were in the building for when he turned babyface at that awesome Raw, arguably the greatest Raw of 2014, a little over a year ago in Hartford, Connecticut, when he went babyface for the first time ever to a great reaction. Maybe it disappoints me more than anyone else. I'm not saying the most disappointed person in the world, but it affects me more than a lot of other casual viewers or most other people that Jack Swagger is kind of floundering right now. Because I was in the building for when he turned babyface, and I witnessed firsthand how over he could be if they kind of stuck with him as the pro-USA patriot whatever. And it's not like they were saying USA, USA. Well, they were. We were in the audience that night, but we were also saying, let's go Swagger. He's good enough in the ring, and that's what I feel like it differs between him and Lex Luger, because he can go in the ring, he can have a really good match, and people want to genuinely cheer for Jack Swagger because he can be good when motivated. But like right now, when he's not even on TV, he doesn't give two shits, he's not passionate about the business, then people aren't going to care because he's never on TV and he's always losing anyway. So, should he leave WWE? It's not a matter of whether he should. But if he was to leave WWE, it would not surprise me in the slightest, because the guy's done nothing for a long time. He was dead in the water before he turned babyface, but that was the final last-ditch effort for Swagger to finally become relevant again in the eyes of the WWE Universe, and they dropped the ball on it. And at this point, there's no point in pushing him again, or there's no hope for him, pretty much. So if he was to leave, it would not surprise me. If he's not happy, he might as well leave. Zack Ryder, they've been doing nothing with him forever now, but it seems like he's still happy doing what he's doing, so I can't blame him. Jack Swagger, if he's not enjoying himself, then you might as well leave. His second question was, will Alexa Bliss be brought up to the main roster with Blake and Murphy? She should be. The whole trio should not be brought up at any point in the near future. They're not ready. They're a good trio, and I think Alexa Bliss adds a lot to the act of Blake and Murphy. I think Enzo Amore, Colin Cassidy, and Carmella should be called up all together in the very near future. I think they are ready, but they should win the tag team titles first. But anyway, though, I feel like when they're called up, Carmella will be with them. On her own, she's not a great wrestler. I think Alexa Bliss, she's not great, but she's coming along nicely in terms of her improvement in the ring. But I think, she's a great babyface. She's adorable. I love Alexa Bliss. And I like that she really adds a lot to the act, like I said, of Blake and Murphy. So when they are called up, I feel like it would be detrimental to them if she was not with them. And also, at the same time, if she's managing them, we could see her in the ring. We could see her in the ring more often with girls like Natalya and Paige, and now Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha, all the other women that were recently called up. And so yeah, I feel like, when they are called up, not any point in the near future, like I mentioned, but she should be with them because I feel like she does not make them worth watching. I guess you can say that, but I feel like they were good before, but I feel like they're a lot better now, and the package is complete with her involved. Next questions, moving on to the Facebook questions here. What legendary tag team do you think should be in the WWE Hall of Fame next year? Demolition. I'm surprised they didn't go in this past year. Nothing against the Bushwhackers. I thought they were good. I mean, I didn't hate on them being inducted like a lot of people. I could see the other tag teams like maybe the Rockers, the Hart Foundation, or whatever being inducted before them. But Demolition got a lot of name drops in WWE TV. I know there was never the plan to bring them in or anything like that, but during the whole Ascension angle, which went nowhere, by the way, but they were name dropped a lot on WWE TV. So I was shocked they weren't inducted this past year, but maybe there is bad blood between the two sides. I'm sure there is. Otherwise, they would have been in a long time ago. They were one of the most popular acts of their time, one of the most popular tag teams of when they were in WWE and wrestling. There is no reason to not induct them. I know there might be bad blood, and it's not a matter of let's wait until they're dead and let's induct them then. That's stupid. That defeats the purpose. I'm so happy Savage is in now, but imagine how great that induction speech would have been had he not passed away 4 years ago, and he would have been there live on stage to accept the honor. Let that be a lesson to everyone else, and to Vince especially, to not wait until people are dead to induct them. I know people like Rick Rude and British Bulldog, who should be in there already, have already passed, so it doesn't matter. But for like a Demolition, or Owen Hart, he's already passed too. But people like that do deserve an induction, they're still here. So get them in when they're still alive. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm happy they got in Warrior before he passed, and Bruno Sammartino and all these other guys that should have been in a long time ago. His next question: what are your thoughts on Sting versus Undertaker not happening because of Vince? It kind of makes me angry, not like, oh, I'm so pissed off, you know what I mean? I'm not that kind of person, but, it was kind of like when I read that not too long ago, it was like, really? That sucks, because I feel like that's a money match, and people will call me crazy, say, that's a shit match, why would you want to see that? Yeah, sure, from a wrestling standpoint, it would not be an instant classic, it would not be a 5-star Matt Classic or anything like that. It would not be match of the year. But with the promos they could cut, the story that could be told, moreover than anything else, the drama that could be created, the atmosphere that could be there for that match, it would be fucking surreal. And it's a money match. It's the last real dream match in wrestling. I mean, I'm trying to think of other dream matches. I mean, like, Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe. That's not really a dream match. I mean, it'd be an amazing match. I don't know if it's a dream match by definition. Sting and Undertaker is and has been for a long time. It's a money match in the eyes of the hardcore fan base and the casual viewer. I think through the Monday Night War show and enough footage that we've seen, or casual viewers have seen of Sting, they know that people would want to see that match even in 2015 or 2016. And I talked about this in my Hidden Remote article, my top 10 dream matches, my dream card for WrestleMania 32 next year. A match between them would be perfect, and as JR said on his podcast long before WrestleMania this year, a retirement match between the two, and both are from the Texas area, so it makes perfect sense. Have them go out regardless of who wins or loses. They both retire right then and there, and that's the end of it. Just end the match right there, or end the careers of both guys with that match. And maybe you go off with something similar like at WrestleMania 28, when Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Undertaker all walked off and they were looking back at the camera. It was an awesome visual. It was an amazing picture because it told a fucking great story. That's why that match, in my opinion, was one of the best bouts of 2012. Same thing with The Rock and John Cena. From an in-ring standpoint, it was not great, of course, but it told an amazing story and it lived up to the hype. If they could do something similar with Undertaker and Sting, it would be phenomenal. In my personal opinion, I feel like, maybe a lot of people will not agree with that, but I feel like, much like Rock and Cena, it was not an in-ring mat classic, but from a story standpoint, it was great. And I feel like they could do the same thing with Undertaker and Sting if they were to book that match for WrestleMania next year. Next question of his, what two superstars not winning championship gold in WWE? The list of people never winning gold in WWE is a lot longer than the list of people who should, like I've answered here on the show before, but Fandango, Adam Rose, Rosa Mendez, anyone basically that's a regular on WWE Superstars. I mean, there's people that should be a champion like a Bo Dallas or something like that. I mean, maybe you count his NXT title reign. If you're talking about main roster, though, then it would not count. It's not a reflection on those guys, Los Matadors. It's not a reflection on them as wrestlers. They're great in-ring talents. It's that their gimmicks suck so much to the point that they should not be champion. Fandango maybe as Intercontinental Champion back in 2013. 2015 version of Fandango, no thanks. Same thing with Adam Rose. Same thing with the Matadors. All three people, or four people if you count both of the Matadors, are great wrestlers, but their gimmicks suck. They suck. They cannot be champions. It would be hurtful to the belts they hold and whatever. So I can't see those people winning any championship gold until they're repackaged, in my opinion. And the next question of his, is it time to repackage Bo Dallas or is he just a failure? So I came up with this scenario the last time I filmed this video, half an hour ago, and I was not thinking about it before I started filming. It came to me while I was filming, and I thought it was great. Maybe other people have pitched this, I don't know, but I thought it would be the coolest thing. And I know this is all coming off the reports. It would be the coolest thing that at SummerSlam, not just because I'll be there, that you do a 6-man tag team match between Reigns, Ambrose, and Sting, which it's been rumored that he will be involved in that feud, that match, whatever, at SummerSlam. It was rumored that you do that team versus the team of Wyatt, Harper, who reunited with Wyatt last night on Battleground, which was great, and a mystery partner. And that mystery partner would have been Eric Rowan, the full Wyatt family, and of course Rowan got hurt, so they're looking for a third guy. Ambrose and Reigns make sense. They have a natural friendship. Sting and Wyatt in the same ring would be great. You could do that match without doing it one-on-one, it could be a really good match, but much like Undertaker and Wyatt at WrestleMania this year, it served no purpose, and Wyatt lost. It's not even that Wyatt should have won, because Undertaker needed that win more than Wyatt did, but the aftermath sucked. Undertaker was never on TV to talk about it. They have not mentioned it since. The match was good, don't get me wrong, but the feud was kind of a waste of time, because they didn't do anything to benefit Wyatt. But regardless, it's a 6-man tag team match. The babyfaces can win. Sting can get his win back, and Wyatt doesn't have to lose another match. You can have Harper take the fall, or the third guy, who would be, in my opinion, in my fantasy world, Bo Dallas. Okay, I know you put Bo Dallas in the ring with Sting and all these other top-tier names. How would that make sense? Now, I know a lot of people were pitching many months ago to make Bo Dallas a Wyatt family member or whatever based off their real-life relationship and being brothers. That would be great. I feel like that's something you could do with Bo Dallas. I don't feel like he needs to be repackaged. I mean, in this case, he would need to be. I feel like his inspirational gimmick, whatever he does now, is great. It's entertaining. They just don't give him for anything to do, anything substantial. They had the Neville feud going for like 2 weeks, and then it was dropped out of nowhere, and he went back to doing nothing. But in this case, he would be repackaged as a much darker follower of Bray Wyatt. And even taking it a step further, Sting and Bo Dallas do have history, and you're going to think I'm crazy here, but you go back to the night after WrestleMania, and this is all nuts, and I thought this was the greatest thing ever when I was pitching this the last time I talked about it in the video, which you'll never see because it never happened because the video got turned off, whatever. My laptop overheated. But Sting and Bo Dallas do have history. The night after WrestleMania, after Raw on the WWE Network, Sting was talking about what his future holds, saying, the only thing for certain is that nothing is for certain, or something like that. Now came Bo Dallas, he interrupted him, and ate a Scorpion Death Drop. Okay, so there is that there. I know they would not acknowledge that, but there is that history there. And it's not like it was from 5 years ago. It was from only a couple of months ago. And that was the last time we saw Sting on TV. So, would that not be perfect or what? Hashtag book it. Moving right along here, the next set of questions come from Daniel C., who also sent in a couple questions via Twitter as well. But starting with his Facebook questions, first one being, in your eyes, what characters in WWE are beyond repair, meaning that they are seen as a joke? Couple people. I hate to say it, but Wade Barrett. He has been a victim... Dolph Ziggler to a lesser extent as well, but a victim of the start and stop booking. The start and stop pushes that people are really starting to believe they're going to do something with him, and then he dies down and he starts losing again. They give him a title and he starts losing again. And the same exact thing every single time he starts to get pushed by WWE. It's crazy. And it's kind of the point where when you lose to Santino, you lose to R-Truth, you lose to all these losers, people just stop caring. And even if they hadn't beat John Cena clean tonight on Raw, Barrett that is, people I still don't think would take him seriously. And it sucks because I feel like he is World Championship material. Look at my Bleacher Report profile on my will not remove until list, which I will never remove until either it happens or Barrett leaves the company. Wade Barrett wins a World Championship. I'm not going to take that down until he's gone because I feel like he can be a World Champion. At this point, maybe not. I don't know if he can be a viable World Champion after being involved in a feud with R-Truth for 2 months and after losing him 5 times and being booked to look like a joke, you know? So I think it might be beyond repair for him, and he might just have to leave because I'm fully convinced WWE hates Barrett now. He's a guy, I said Dolph Ziggler. Fandango is another guy, maybe he's beyond repair in that I don't know if there's anything you could do to make people care about him anymore unless he gets repackaged, you know? There was another guy I was thinking about before when I answered this, the first time I filmed this video. Maybe it was Adam Rose. I feel like there's still time if they want to repackage him. Man. Barrett. Who was another guy? Jack Swagger maybe is another guy that people just don't even care about anymore. He's beyond repair. But Barrett was the first guy that came to mind because I feel like he has been losing so much that people just, even if they try to repackage him, I feel like people just won't take him seriously, and it sucks. You know, Ziggler is the same thing, and I'll talk about this in a second because someone else asked me about it. Could I see him as world champion? Honestly, at this point, no. You know, because he's been the victim of so many start and stop pushes that even if they were to give him the title, people will be like, or even if before he wins the world champion, wins the world title, people would be like, you know, he's not going to win it. They'll just give him a title shot and he won't win. Okay, let's say he wins. Oh, that's cool, but it's not going to last very long because his first 2 reigns did not last long at all. You know, the first one lasted 50 minutes and the second one was like a month, but that's only because he got injured. But you know what I mean, you know? And I'll get back to Ziggler in a couple minutes. But Barrett is the perfect person that comes to mind that he might be beyond repair. I don't know if I've completely lost all hope. I still have like 2% left in my hope meter for Wade Barrett, for King Barrett, Bad News Barrett, whatever the hell you want to call him. But he's the first guy that came to mind when you asked that question. His second question here, who is better at selling, Shawn Michaels or Dolph Ziggler? I love Ziggler's selling because it's so much fun. It's so fun to see. But as John told me not too long ago, it's very hokey, and I completely agree with that. And it's not even the fact that he kicks out of DDTs and stuff like that, like he looks like he just got shot and he still kicks out. That's not Ziggler's fault. That's the booking of the matches and the agents, whatever, so I don't blame that on him. But his selling can be a little bit cartoonish at times, so I do agree with that. I'd have to go with Shawn Michaels, with the exception of SummerSlam, which was complete gold for all the wrong reasons, when he sold like crazy for Hogan. He was a great seller. And he was believable too. He wasn't like, look, he just got killed. I mean, when Ziggler like sells like a spear, he looks like he got cut in half. You know, especially from a guy like Roman Reigns. But more often than not, he comes off a little hokey, so I can't see that. But I would have to go with Shawn Michaels in that case. Ziggler's a close second though. Third question of his: do you think that Bray Wyatt's promos are getting boring because he never gets the job done, i.e., wins a match? You know, I think he asked that before the pay-per-view last night. And I mean, he won last night, but I think the biggest issue before yesterday, anyway. I don't know if last night's a turning point. It was only one night. We'll have to wait and see. I'll hold out hope. You know, I'll hold out judgment until we see more from Wyatt going forward. But yeah, his promos, people just don't take them seriously, or didn't take them seriously, because he never backed up what he said. The new face of fear shit. I'm the new face of fear. Well, you lost to Undertaker at WrestleMania, so why are you the new face of fear? You know, he would talk all this shit about Ryback. I'm going to destroy you. He beats Ryback, but then Ryback goes on to win the Intercontinental title. You know, it's the same thing all the time. He loses, and he loses, and he loses. And it's just kind of the point. It's ridiculous. I mean, he won last night, so I'm happy. I'm not complaining. But that's the reason why, you know, it's a big mystery to some people. Oh, why don't people think he's interesting? Why do people think he's stale and uninteresting at this point in his career? It's because WWE never has him back up what he says in his promos. You know, I'm gonna destroy you, Roman Reigns. Okay, you're destroyed. Is he gonna go on to win a championship now? You know what I mean? Like we saw with Ryback and Daniel Bryan and all these other guys. It's crazy, you know. But I think last night was a step in the right direction. But like I said, we will have to wait and see. Moving on to the Twitter questions now, and this was from last week, and I think I just missed it. I think he sent it in too late. But anyway, from @unsolved22. Hopefully the mic's still working. I think I just knocked it out there for a second. Shit. Hopefully it's still working. But anyway, from @unsolved22. Are you a fan of the Seth Rollins evil laugh? I feel it's a little too cartoonish. It's not that I hate it. I can see where you're coming from. It doesn't bother me like the forced laugh from the commentators, Vince McMahon especially back in the 80s and 90s, and now Michael Cole and the other guys. That bothers me. The Seth Rollins evil laugh, it doesn't bother me, but I do see where it does feel forced, and it does feel like it does come across like a little cartoonish. And it's funny too, because Rollins said in an interview recently that WWE is no longer about the cartoon characters, whereas we have Neville as like the superhero and Stardust as, Stardust, and we have Rollins doing the evil laugh. Just don't do it. I mean, he does a good job. He's come so far on the mic, but yeah, the evil laugh does come across as like, I'm a supervillain. And the same kind of thing, It doesn't bother me, but I do absolutely see where you're coming from, though. Next question from @DH Raza. What possible way could WWE make Dolph Ziggler work as a title contender? Now, I'm assuming he's talking about the World Championship here. The mid-card title doesn't matter because he could win a mid-card championship and people wouldn't bat an eyelash because we've seen it so many times before. But as a world title contender, and as I just mentioned a couple minutes ago when I was responding to Daniel's question from Facebook, the perfect opportunity to put the belt on him. I mean, there have been many opportunities, but the perfect opportunity in my mind was right after Survivor Series last year. He was booked really well as Intercontinental Champion for a time, but after he lost it, he was back to being not a jobber, but he was back to square one. He was back to being a directionless mid-carder, and he has never been on the cusp of the main event scene ever since. So it goes back to what I was saying before, the start and stop pushes. People just don't take him seriously as a world title contender anymore. So is all hope lost? I don't know, and I would really like to see Dolph Ziggler as in the world title picture where he belongs. There is no reason why he should not be at that level, in my opinion. I think he has all the tools to be a viable world champion in WWE. But people have been accustomed to seeing Dolph Ziggler lose to the point where they just don't see him at that level anymore, and it's really a shame. Moving on here to @Daniel Cabeza 59's questions. Would you mark out if Daniel Bryan returns with his American Dragon theme song? Absolutely. And I've talked about this. I've been an advocate of this for years now. I tweeted about this back in 2013 and 2012 too. I've been saying this for a long time. But Daniel Bryan, I would love to see him use It's the Final Countdown. His Ring of Honor theme song and the song he used on the Indies by Europe. And it's not completely out of the question either, because CM Punk used Cult of Personality by Living Colour. So Vince could dish out the cash moi for that song for Punk to use it on a weekly basis. I'm sure they could do the same thing with Daniel Bryan. It's not like Daniel Bryan's a Zack Ryder or an Adam Rose. It's not like we're giving him a licensed theme song because he's a loser. He's a big name. So when he does come back, I would love to see him use that theme. But the biggest issue that I've seen people talk about before is that his current theme doesn't really have that big pop at the start of it, like the glass breaking, or If You Can Smell, or the da 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 for John Cena's theme, or Time to Play the Game, stuff like that, or a Feed Me More, But that's the reason. That's one of the issues that people have with Daniel Bryan's current theme song. But his current theme is good. It's probably the best theme he's ever had in WWE, which is not saying much because a lot of his themes have been generic and have sucked. But his current theme is perfect with his yes gimmick. Da-da-da-da-da, yes, yes, yes. It's the Final Countdown's a lot slower. So I don't know if it would work as well. It's the final countdown, da-da-da, yes, yes. I don't know. The rhythm doesn't work as well. So maybe they could try it out. I don't know. I wanted to see him debut it at SummerSlam 2013 for his match against John Cena. At WrestleMania last year when he's coming down for his match against Triple H. That would be awesome to see. But yeah, if they want to enter a new chapter in the career of Daniel Bryan, it would be awesome to see him come out to It's the Final Countdown. He's already a star in a lot of people's eyes, mine included. But that would take him to an all-new level of superstardom if he was to come out to It's the Final Countdown, a very recognizable song in the eyes of many casual viewers as well. His third question here, Our second question, rather. I think that John Cena should stop using the springboard stunner. It's ridiculous in my eyes. What are your thoughts? I agree. It's a terrible move. I mean, it's not a terrible move, but he executes it very poorly. And at first, I didn't have a problem with it because it was something new. I think he started using it at WrestleMania in the match against Rusev. But, I appreciated the effort from Cena to add new moves to his repertoire, but he doesn't do it well at all. It's only gotten worse, if anything. He's not gotten better at it. It's only gotten worse at doing that, It's ridiculous. He does it very, very poorly. So, I don't want to see him do that anymore going forward. I agree. I feel like it's not a good move for him. I appreciate him, expanding his moveset, and he's done that with other moves like the Sunset Flip and the Half Canadian Destroyer. Keep with those moves. Stop doing the Springboard Stunner. The camera angle is terrible. The execution is not good. The selling, it can't be too good if the execution isn't good, So yeah, he should stop using it going forward. Maybe add something else in its place, but that's not a good move for John Cena because he does not execute it very well. His third question, do you think there was heat between WWE and Jim Ross? I think that because of how humiliated Jim Ross was sometimes on Raw. I don't think the heat really lied between WWE and Jim Ross. It was more Vince pulling a rib on Jim Ross every single time they were in his hometown or whatever. Making fun of his belly and stuff a couple years ago, back in 2012, I want to say, when Vince came back, they did a backstage segment where he had a cowboy hat and he kind of mocked Jim Ross's facial expressions. That was tasteless. That was terrible. And just stuff like that. And, it's not that WWE hates Jim Ross. It's that Vince can be a bully at times, more often than not, I guess. And it's ridiculous. The reason why Jim Ross, how he's not on commentary now, is beyond me. He's the greatest commentator in wrestling today, and he's not being utilized? What? So, there's no heat between WWE and Jim Ross. It's more that Vince, picks on Jim Ross, or maybe he's jealous of him. I don't know, but he shits on him all the time. It's nobody else in the company. It's only Vince. More often than not, it's definitely Vince, and it has more to do with him just ribbing Jim Ross than there really is any real hatred between the two sides. Next question of his, what is your favorite submission hold? Good question. Maybe there is one that I'm just not thinking of. The only two that came to mind were the Lion Tamer, not the Walls of Jericho, the Lion Tamer. That's a great move from Chris Jericho, or the Anaconda of Ice from CM Punk. I know that's not an amazing move, but I do it all the time in MMA, so maybe that's why I can relate to it. And I know those are the first two that came to mind because they're two of my favorites. So of course they're the first two that I think of. Maybe there's another one that isn't coming to mind right now, but in terms of favorite submission holds that I can think of at the moment, Lion Tamer and Anaconda of Ice. Next question comes from @SwagZio. His question was, should Wade Barrett challenge Ryback if he's healthy for the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam? I've seen a couple people pitch this. I think Andre talked about it, or he pitched this on Facebook last week or whatever. I've seen a couple people say that it should happen. Personally, I don't want to see. I want to see it, but the reason why I don't think it should work is because we've seen it so many times before. Not that we've seen it so many times before, but just that Wade Barrett's been booked to look like a loser. So why would I take him as a legitimate threat to the Intercontinental Championship? I know he won last night, but people do not care about Barrett right now. Ryback people care about. He's getting great reactions. Miz and Big Show, say what you will about the guys, but they generate heat. For the most part, Miz has been a great heel. Big Show, people don't really care about, but at least it's a fresh feud. And Barrett, at least Big Show was not losing to Zack Ryder and R-Truth. Barrett is, and people just don't take him seriously. I don't want to see Barrett back with that belt either. Maybe he doesn't win in your scenario, but people just don't care about him right now, and it's going to take a lot more than a feud for the IC title, a title that he tarnished when he held it earlier this year, and it's not his fault. It was the booking of his character and of his reign that pretty much ruined any credibility he had left. I wanted to see that feud for years because it was like they were the only two guys that had never faced off one-on-one after the Nexus disbanded, and they had a pretty good match on Raw a couple months ago, right before the Chamber, I want to say. But Barrett should not be going for any titles. He would only bring down that championship if he was to go after it. It's a fresh feud, yeah, but Barrett's a loser right now. Put him with, in a feud with God knows fucking who. I don't even know. But not Ryback, because Ryback should not be dragged down to that level. And he should definitely not lose to Barrett either. Barrett's held that title 5 times already, and 4 out of 5 of those reigns were forgettable and stupid and were a waste. Not on him, but because of how he was booked. His second question here: if Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar have a rematch, when should it take place? I don't know. I mean, a one-on-one rematch at SummerSlam would be good. I'd rather see that than Lesnar and Undertaker. But how would that make sense if Undertaker already attacked Lesnar last night? So we're either getting Lesnar and Taker or a triple threat with him and Rollins, with those guys and Rollins. So that's not going to happen. Maybe you wait to do a rematch between Rollins and Lesnar until WrestleMania next year. I mean, that'd be pretty cool, right? I know Jim Ross mentioned it on his blog that WrestleMania, Lesnar being chase mode for the championship up until WrestleMania next year, where he finally wins back the belt as a conquering babyface, a conquering hero. Maybe not babyface, as I mentioned before, but as a conquering hero. And initially, I was not sold on that idea, but after last night, I could get behind that. If you want to do a one-on-one rematch between Rollins and Lesnar, and that's where Lesnar finally beats Rollins and wins back the belt after Rollins beat him for the belt last year at WrestleMania, it would be a great story. It'd be perfect, a perfect story to tell. So yeah, I would maybe at WrestleMania. I don't know if you maybe you do Lesnar and Batista. That's possible, or the triple threat with the Shield. But yeah, I'd rather see the Shield triple threat than a rematch between the two at WrestleMania. But maybe they hold off on it until Night of Champions, or maybe in the spring or the winter next year. But if they're going to do a rematch, it looks like it won't take place at SummerSlam. At the earliest, it's going to happen at early 2016, if we're ever going to get another match between Rollins and Lesnar one-on-one. Going into the final chunk of questions here, Ali STFU from Twitter: what do you think is next for the Roman Wyatt feud now that Harper is in the picture? Now, like I said before, I feel like a 6-man tag team match at SummerSlam with Reigns, Ambrose, and Sting versus Wyatt, Harper, and Bo Dallas would be a great addition to that card. I'd rather see that than a one-on-one rematch between Roman and Wyatt. They had a good match last night. The first half of it was pretty boring. They picked up the pace down the stretch. It was a good match on the whole. But I don't think Wyatt's going to win again, like one-on-one against Roman. And Roman would probably get his win back, and it would kind of defeat the purpose of Wyatt winning on this show. So I wouldn't book a rematch between the two, one-on-one anyway, but a 6-man tag team match is perfect. It gives Ambrose a match. It's a perfect match to be putting Sting in, to get that little interaction between Sting and Wyatt would be fucking phenomenal. And then you also get a new kind of Wyatt family back together with Harper and then Bo Dallas. That'd be really cool too. He's been a perfect member for that family for a while now. And as I mentioned, I feel like Bo Dallas would be a perfect fit because he should have joined months ago. He hasn't been doing anything for a long time. And given his real-life relationship with Bray and given his, current lack of direction in his history with Sting, I think it'd be a great fit. So that's the direction I see this feud taking, or rather the direction I would like to see it take. I think Roman and Ambrose versus Wyatt and Harper would also be an awesome match, but you throw in a 6-man with Sting and Dallas, it could be a blockbuster 6-man tag team match in time for SummerSlam. Next question comes from Matt Scottyman 96. Best match so far from Cena versus Owens? Of the 3, I thought last night was the weakest. I know it hurts to say that because all 3 of them have been phenomenal. I thought that was the quote-unquote the worst of the 3. I mean, it's really not saying much because all 3 matches were fantastic. My favorite was the first. I know a lot of people will say the second. The second one was probably the best. My favorite was the first. Maybe just because of the clean win or the novelty of it being the first time ever between the two. A long time match I've been wanting to see for a very long time between Cena and Owens. And Owens winning, like I mentioned, and all the near falls and whatever. So my favorite would be the first. The best, a lot of people will tell you the second one from Money in the Bank. At _ John Stark, and his question was, my good old buddy John, who I will be at SummerSlam with in 34 more days. His question was, if Battleground could not please a portion of the audience of the WWE Universe, what will? What will it take to get everyone on board? It's disheartening to see so much negativity when we're witnessing the best wrestling in years. Now, I could not agree more. Now, he texted me about this last night, this morning, whatever. We were talking about this via text. And he mentioned he had saw a lot of hate. surrounding the pay-per-view or the finishes of the final 2 matches, whatever. I didn't. Maybe we're looking at 2 different timelines. I mean, I'm sure they're out there, and I'm sure people... I listened to another review from the Solomonster on his YouTube channel. He also said that on his timeline, he saw a lot of people that either loved the show or hated it. Based on my interactions, my mentions last night, my timeline after the pay-per-view ended, I went on my timeline. It wasn't just from Undertaker coming back. I saw a lot of people say, wow, that was a great show. People marking out like, wow, what a great show, whatever. I fall in the former category. I thought that was a great show. I was really entertained by it, like I mentioned. And my standards are so low, I'm just naturally optimistic. I'm going to enjoy something more often than not. But I genuinely thought that last night was the best pay-per-view, probably since WrestleMania, the second best show of the year, in my opinion. Now, not every match was a classic, mind you, and it did have its flaws. Like I said, Owens tapping out, Owens losing, period. I thought Owens should have won that match. In the main event, Undertaker coming back was phenomenal, no pun intended. But the non-finish, or not even the non-finish, but just the lack of an announcement of a finish to the main event was a little bit ridiculous. Going off the air 15 minutes early was nuts. So that was a little weird. That was kind of a minor gripe that I had with the end of the show. But other than that, though, you had all really good matches across the board. The reuniting of the Wyatt family. Barrett finally won a match. A really good tag team title match. A better than expected match between Orton and Sheamus. A really good women's match. What's there to complain about? You know, we're not going to get an all-star lineup. In 2015 for WWE, to have a card that has all good matches, in my opinion, is a great show. Because it's very, very rare that we get a show that's consistently as good as it was last night. Even the final 2 matches where the finishes were not what I thought they could have been. Undertaker coming back and the amazing match that was Cena and Owens overshadow those flaws, in my opinion, anyway. If people thought the show last night was shit, or it was crap, or they hated it, you know, I'm not surprised, because, you know, in being on Twitter I've been on Twitter for 6 years now. I've been a prominent member of the WWE universe since 2008. I've been dealing with fans, I've been talking with fans and stuff like that for at least 5 or 6 years now on the internet. In this case, anyway, I feel like there's always going to be the people that shit on the show, and that's fine. If you don't like the show, that's your own problem. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you. I'm not one of those people that will sit here and argue with you and tell you why it was. I mean, I'll tell you why I thought it was a good show. It doesn't mean it was a great show. It's just why I thought it was a great show, in my opinion, why I enjoyed it. If you don't like it, that's completely fine. I'm not going to sit here and be that person to call you out and say, why the fuck didn't you like that show? Sometimes I'll do that on Twitter. More often than not, I don't really care. You know, if you don't like the show, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. I honestly don't really care. If you like it, and I don't like it. You could try to convince me. You probably won't change my mind to enjoy something when I initially didn't. But still, there's always going to be that portion of the audience that will shit on anything that WWE does. That's fine. Some people had legitimate claims, as they mentioned, like Owens tapping out in the non-finish. But I do absolutely agree with John 100% that we are witnessing the best wrestling in years in WWE. And that's not an overstatement. That's not, what's the word I'm looking here? That's not over-exaggerating. I honestly believe, and I know John will agree with me, that we are witnessing the best wrestling in years in WWE, and not just the in-ring stuff, not just the in-ring product. I mean, kind of that moreover than anything else. But when was the last time the product was consistently as entertaining as it is right now? Years, at least since 2011 or before that. 2012 was a good year. It was underrated, but 2013 was not a good year in the whole. 2014 was not a good year in the whole. Some really good stuff. But we've had, in my opinion, and that's the 3 words I've been saying over and over and over and over in this video, because that's what this video is all about, just my opinion. Maybe you'll completely disagree with everything I have to say. But the product has been, more often than not, very entertaining since WrestleMania. On the whole, all things considered here. And if an Undertaker return and an amazing Cena-Owens match did not, please you, as John Cena and John Knapp, that's why I said Cena. But as John said, I don't know what will. As they mentioned, if you're not taking enjoyment out of it, it doesn't affect me. I'm still going on my everyday life. It doesn't. If you didn't like the show, then it doesn't affect me, so I don't care. That's your only problem. That's your own problem. That's fine. So, and that's completely cool. But find something that you do like. Try not to shit on everything, but there will always be those kind of people. But if you did have legitimate claims and stuff, that's cool too. That's even better. constructive criticism is our friend, in terms of wrestling and stuff. That sucked. Well, why did it suck? That was great. Well, why was it great? In your opinion anyway. It doesn't mean it was fact. Great, sucked, terrible, awesome are all subjective words. They are not fact. Lesnar and Rollins was shit. That's not fact. Lesnar and Rollins was awesome. That's not fact. It's all subjective, But I do agree with John. Try to enjoy the product. If you don't, that's cool. Try to find something in the product that you do like, or find something else in wrestling that you do enjoy. That's my 2 cents on that. From at Big Bird 432, his question was, during CM Punk's year-long title reign, is there any feud that you feel WWE missed the boat on doing? This I thought was a great question. 3 feuds. Wade Barrett, and I know he was out for a while. I know I had read a lot of rumors at that time that he was supposed to win Money in the Bank that year, and he denied those rumors, whatever. But even when he came back, I felt like they could have done Barrett and Punk, and he never really got that one-on-one feud. I know they had like a one-off match on Raw in like early 2011, but that was it. I feel like a Barrett and Punk feud could have been really good on the mic and in the ring. So that was a feud that I would have loved to see in late 2012, and Punk was already a heel by that point, and Barrett was a heel too, but that would have been a great feud to see too. Cody Rhodes, another guy that I feel like they were rumoring, or they were priming him for a WWE title feud with CM Punk in the summer of 2012, but they ended up turning him heel and did the thing with John Cena, which was really good too. The match that they had were phenomenal. No surprise there. But Cody Rhodes, I felt like he got shafted. He got after he dropped the IC title, I felt like, now's the time to put him in the world title picture or the WWE title picture, and they didn't. I feel like Cody Rhodes and Punk also could have been a really good programming. Could have been a really good program. And last and certainly not least, my personal feud, my favorite feud that we never got to see from CM Punk versus Christian. Those guys had 2 matches on SmackDown, one in October 2010 and another in October 2011. Both really good matches. We saw Punk attack Christian right before WrestleMania in 2012, right before WrestleMania 28. And it put Christian on the sidelines for a couple months, and he came back as a babyface. And it would have been so perfect. I mean, Christian was a heel when Punk attacked him, but they had the roles reversed in late 2012. Punk was a heel, Christian was a babyface, and Christian was out with an injury at that point. But that would have been a great feud that I would have loved to see. WWE didn't necessarily drop the ball on these feuds because we did end up seeing them. Christian got hurt, Barrett got hurt, Rhodes. That was the only one they really dropped the ball on. The other guys got hurt, or the timing wasn't right, or whatever. But those are feuds that I would have loved to see over the WWE Championship when CM Punk was champion back in 2012, 2011, 2013, whatever. Next question. At Evan Ball 4, his question was, is Undertaker now heel? Answered this before, but no. If anything, I think Lesnar will be the one in that feud to go heel. People just aren't going to boo Undertaker. Unless they have him kill a baby. I mean, he burned down his own house and he killed his parents, so nothing is off limits when it comes to The Undertaker. But they're going to have to do something really drastic to turn The Undertaker heel, because Lesnar was not a full-fledged babyface to begin with. So it's not really a heel turn for The Undertaker, and just have him be cheered. It doesn't matter. Just do the match, and you don't have to turn anybody, because people... It doesn't work when you have the Divas, because people just don't care about the Divas, or they didn't before. And they didn't have established characters, so you can't get away with doing that kind of thing. But when you have Undertaker and Lesnar, 2 established characters that people either cheer or boo, and they already have huge fan bases, it doesn't matter who's the heel, who's the babyface. You just have 2 huge icons, and it won't matter. Next question from @RJ_Marceau. Do you still think they will have Kevin Owens face John Cena at SummerSlam? Talked about it before. They can't do another match one-on-one. We've seen it all from the 2. They had great matches, but I'd pass on a 4th. I mentioned this on Twitter. It would have been better if they did a best-of-5 series or a best-of-7 series. And they don't have to have all 5 or 7 matches on pay-per-view. They could have afforded to do a few on Raw or SmackDown, like they did back in the day. And I know we saw a best-of-5 series recently on Impact, but we haven't seen one in WWE in God knows how long. Wow. Maybe the early 2000s, maybe a decade ago. I honestly don't even know. Not 2 out of 3 count falls. I'm talking best of 5 series of matches, and that would have been great for an Owens or Cena. Unless you do an Iron Man match one-on-one at SummerSlam, you don't need another singles match between the 2 right now. Owens tapped out. He got pinned in back-to-back pay-per-views by Cena. So it would make no sense to have him go back for the title and then win there. They should have pulled the trigger last night at Battleground. But like I mentioned earlier, the first question I mentioned at part of this video, a triple threat with Cesaro or a fatal four-way with Cesaro and Rusev would be the way that I would go. And maybe then you give Owens the belt, but as I mentioned, last night would have been the place to do it. But still, I feel like Owens, then what else do you do with him? You know, that's the thing. What else do you do with Owens if he doesn't face John Cena at SummerSlam? He's going to be at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, and have him come up to the main roster just to do the thing with Cena and then send him right back down to NXT would be a fucking massive mistake, and I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm sure that's not the case, but there's a fear in me that there's a part of me that does fear that is the case, and I'm hoping it isn't. But anyway, a triple threat with Cesaro I feel like would be the best course of action, or a fatal four-way with Rusev, to not give us the same match we just saw 3 pay-per-views in a row from Owens and Cena. Next two final questions come from @TheAverageGrunt. First one being, with The Undertaker surprisingly hitting Lesnar with a cheap low blow, do you think that you could have him coming back as a heel? I already mentioned that. I don't think so. I think he's way too over. He's way too popular to be turning him. So, no, I think he'll just be... He might not be a full-fledged babyface like he's always been. He might be kind of a darker character, a tweener character maybe, but he won't be a heel. A full-fledged heel, I don't think so. And his final question, not wrestling related, but still, I'll be, if it's a question like this, I'll be willing to answer it. I don't want to ask, usually if it's wrestling related, it has to be wrestling related to make the show. But if it's something like this, where, if it's interesting, it's not like, I don't want, the reason I say wrestling related in the post I usually put up on Twitter and Facebook is that I don't want people to send in massive questions about, so what are your thoughts on Obama? And stuff like that. I'm not going to answer that here on the show. I don't want to get in a whole political debate or a religious debate, whatever. Something like this, so I will be happy to answer every once in a while. His question was, have you played any of the Arkham games? And if so, what do you think of them? And if not, would you give them a shot? So, no, I haven't, but it's not because I'm not interested or I don't like them or whatever. My college roommate is a huge gamer. I'm sure he has the games. I think he's actually suggested that I play some. We don't have a game system up at school. I'm home right now, obviously, but we only have... I had a Wii at one point. I still do have the Wii. I just never play it. I have a PS2. My brother has an Xbox One. We also have a PS3 somewhere else, but I don't have any of those at school with me. So when he has a PS4, he can't bring it up to school with him. He has to keep it at home. It's a long story. He's hoping to buy one in time for the next semester. So maybe I'll play it then. Instead, I'll be playing, what's the name of that game? He always brings it up. I forgot what it was. I'm thinking of Battleground, but it's maybe Battlefield or... Not Battlefront. We play Battlefront all the time. That's a great game. But the reason I don't play Arkham or Call of Duty or stuff like that is just I'm not a huge gamer to begin with. I never really was a huge gamer. I would play the WWE game every once in a while, like WWE 12 or WWE 13, whatever. Of course, I play SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 General Manager mode, but I don't play it all the time. I play it when I'm with John, and I rarely play it by myself when I'm not with him. Other than that, though, I never play video games, so it's the reason why I don't have the Arkham games. I have been recommended to them in the past, suggested them that I play them, and I probably will at some point, especially if my roommate, like I says, brings up a PS4 next semester and he does have that game. I will play them. I'm a huge fan of the Batman movies and stuff. I think they're awesome. Some of the best movies I've seen in years. I haven't played them, and I haven't played them because I don't have a PS4 or an Xbox One for myself. My brother does, but I don't play games. I'm just not a gamer. I'm just too busy doing other stuff. I write too much, and I'm just way too busy to be playing video games. Unfortunately, I just don't have time. Unfortunately, to just kind of set aside. I just don't have that burning desire as some other people. Nothing wrong with it. Just not who I am. I'm just not a gamer. But yeah, I probably will give them a shot at some point if my college roommate does bring them back up to school with him next semester. So that is going to do it for this week's edition of #AskGSM. Thank you for sitting down once again for another hour as I ramble on and on and on this hour-long monologue, answering your questions, your great questions from Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. And if you want to send in a question, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights, or leave a post on the wall itself. Or you can tweet me on Twitter with the hashtag AskGSM at WrestleRant, or leave a comment on this very video, and I'll be sure to include your question in next week's edition. So without further ado, folks, I'm extremely excited for Raw tonight. If you're watching this beforehand, enjoy Raw. If you're watching this after the fact or later on in the week. Hopefully you guys have a great week and enjoy the road to SummerSlam, which is only 34 more days away. And did I mention I'll be there? No, I'm just kidding. But have a great week, guys, and I'll catch you folks down the road.